It's 3:12 a.m. in a dimly lit hospital hallway in Lagos. The flickering fluorescent lights hum softly above Naomi Akinda, 32, who stands motionless in faded nurse's scrubs, staring blankly at a vending machine she cannot afford. Her shoes are worn, her eyes bloodshot, her spirit visibly frayed. Her phone vibrates in her pocket. Another declined transaction. She doesn't react right away, just breathes, then slowly walks outside into the chill of the early morning. The street outside the hospital is empty, lifeless. She dials her 13-year-old son, Malik. No answer. She tries again. Still nothing. Her fingers tremble as she calls her neighbor to check in on her 2 kids. "Please just look in on them," she whispers. Her second nursing shift ended hours ago, but she's already late for her cleaning job. The same job she swore she'd quit months ago but never did, because quitting means not eating. By dawn, Naomi trudges up the steps to her building, every bone in her body aching. Inside, the apartment is dim and hot. The power is out again. She drops her bag and freezes. Her 8-year-old daughter Adaora is sitting cross-legged on the kitchen floor, eating dry Gary with her fingers. No milk, no sugar, just survival. Naomi kneels beside her and pulls her into a soft, exhausted hug. Then comes a knock, not soft, not patient. The landlord stands in the doorway, arms crossed, face stone cold. "You said Friday. It's Monday. Where's my rent?" Naomi pleads for 2 more days, just 2 more days. The man scoffs and walks away, muttering, "Excuses don't pay bills." Before she can even catch her breath, the front door swings open. Malik storms in, throws his school bag to the floor. "I got suspended," he says, his voice simmering with rage. "Some boy laughed at my shoes, said I dress like a beggar." Naomi tries to hold him, calm him, explain, but he pulls away. "I'm tired of this," he spits. "I'm tired of being poor." The room goes silent. The walls seem to close in. Naomi, now curled in the corner of the room, can't hold back the tears. She covers her face with trembling hands, and in the quiet that follows, as the heat and shame press against her skin, she hears her son's voice again, this time softer, but heavier. "Mom, I'm tired of being poor." She turns toward the window, the rising sun barely breaking through the city's dust-streaked horizon. Her voice, no louder than a breath, slips into the room. "Me too, baby. Me too." Naomi Akinda used to believe in fairness, that if you worked hard, stayed honest, and prayed often, life would reward you. But life, for her, had other plans. 5 years ago, her husband Daniel kissed her goodbye before boarding a bus headed for his factory job in Ikeja. Hours later, Naomi got the call. The bus had skidded off a rain-slick road, tumbling into a ravine. There were no survivors. Since that day, Naomi has not truly rested. Grief was a luxury she couldn't afford. With 2 children staring at her for answers, and no income but her nursing diploma, Naomi buried the tears and picked up extra shifts. By night, she works as a nurse in a chaotic, understaffed hospital. By dawn, she's sweeping and mopping corporate floors before the CEOs arrive. On weekends, she rents a smoky backyard stove to prepare stews and jollof rice for church women and wedding receptions, barely earning enough to keep the fridge running when there's even light. Her home in Ajagunle is a cramped 2-room apartment that smells faintly of Dettol and fried onions. There's no ceiling fan, no microwave, and when it rains, the zinc roof chatters like gunfire. But it's home. Naomi runs it like a military camp, clothes folded, homework checked, lights off by 10, assuming NEPA permits. What her children see is a mother who wakes up before them and sleeps after them, who never complains and rarely smiles. What they don't see is the nightly ritual of quiet panic, the unpaid bills hidden in drawers, the eviction notice slipped under the door, or the painkillers she takes for a back that's begun to betray her. Malik, her teenage son, remembers his father only in fragments. A laugh, a smell, a tall silhouette. At 13, he's bright, especially with numbers, but school feels like punishment. Every day he watches richer classmates tease him for his threadbare shoes and faded uniform. His anger simmers beneath the surface, sometimes boiling over in fights. He resents the world that stole his father, the mother who's always at work, and the suffocating life he didn't choose. Yet beneath the scowl is a boy who still waits by the door sometime, just in case his father somehow walks back through it. Adora is the opposite. a talkative 8-year-old who dances to radio jingles and draws hearts around her mother's name. Poverty, for now, is an abstract thing to her. She knows the lights go out, that sometimes dinner is just biscuits and water, but she believes everything is still okay. She sees Naomi's weariness and tries to lift it with hugs, silly songs, and handmade cards that read, "Best mommy ever." It's her innocence that often keeps Naomi from falling apart. But reality is closing in. Naomi is 3 months behind on rent, and her landlord no longer accepts apologies. At the hospital, she's on probation after dozing off during a night shift, a result of working 2 jobs and sleeping barely 3 hours a night. Another slip, they warned her, and she's gone. Last week, Malik was caught loitering in front of a supermarket after school, waiting for Naomi to come back from her cleaning job. Someone called CPS. A young woman with a clipboard visited the apartment, asking polite but sharp questions. Do the children eat regularly? Is Naomi ever absent for long hours? The woman left with a forced smile but warned, "We'll be following up. Custody can be reconsidered if conditions don't improve." That night, Naomi sat on the floor, staring at the peeling paint on the wall, Malik pretending not to watch her. She doesn't break in front of her children. Not ever. But inside, the walls are cracking. Her hands are raw, her strength thinning, and her faith, the one thing she's clung to all these years, feels like it's slipping through her fingers. She whispers into the darkness, not for answers, but simply to feel heard. "God, what else do you want from me?" There's no reply, just the sound of a leaky faucet and a child soft breathing in the next room. It's raining again, the kind of rain that soaks through roofs and spirits alike. Naomi's hands grip the mop handle tightly as she scrubs the sleek marble floor of a corporate office in Victoria Island. Her back aches, her legs throb, and a subtle limp has begun to shadow her movements from a twisted ankle she never had time to treat. The cleaning company uniform clings to her skin, damp from sweat and humidity. She hums quietly to herself, half to stay awake, half to block out the sting of the fluorescent lights. That's when the glass doors slide open, and a tall, kind-looking man in his early 50s steps in, brushing rainwater from his jacket. His presence is unhurried, calm. He glances around, clearly lost. "Excuse me," he says gently. "Do you know where the Westbridge conference room is?" Naomi stands upright slowly, masking her pain with effort. She points him down the corridor and gives him clear directions. "Thank you," he says, and just before walking off, his eyes catch the slight grimace she makes as she returns to mopping. "Are you all right?" he asks. She nods quickly. "I'm fine, sir," but he doesn't walk away. Instead, he reaches into his leather bag and offers her a bottle of water. "You look like you've been on your feet a long time." She hesitates. She doesn't like charity. Still, she takes it with a stiff smile. "Thank you." Later that evening, when the office is emptied and the silence grows heavy, Naomi curls into a chair in the janitor's room for a moment of rest. She tells herself it's just 5 minutes, just to close her eyes, but her body betrays her. She drifts off. That's how Jude Harrison finds her again, returning to retrieve a forgotten tablet. He pauses when he sees her, shoulders hunched, head drooping in sleep. He doesn't wake her immediately. There's something heartbreaking about the way she sleeps, guarded even in rest, like someone who can't afford peace. When she stirs suddenly, her eyes fly open in embarrassment. She bolts upright, ashamed. "I didn't mean to. I was just..." Jude gently waves off her apology. "It's okay. You looked like you needed it." He helps her sit properly, offers her another bottle of water, and quietly listens as she explains, only vaguely, that she works multiple jobs. He doesn't pry. He just nods, thoughtful, and before leaving, he places something into her hand. "You deserve better than this," he says, softly. In her palm is a folded 50,000 naira note, an amount she hasn't seen all at once in months, and a business card. Jude Harrison, Strategic Consultant, Atlanta and Lagos. That night, back at home, Naomi places the money carefully into a tin box behind the flour tin. The business card sits on the table, white and crisp. Malik walks in, spots it, and picks it up. "Who's this?" he asks, eyebrows raised. Naomi snatches it, but not fast enough. "What's this, Mom? You finally found a sugar daddy?" His tone is biting, half joking, half serious. Naomi's face burns. "It's not like that," she says firmly, but the shame has already bloomed. In a flash of anger, she crumples the card and throws it into the trash. Malik scoffs and walks off, and Naomi busies herself with folding laundry, boiling water, anything to keep her hands busy. But later that night, when the children are asleep, she kneels by the bin, pulls the card out of the trash, smooths it gently between her fingers. She stares at it for a long time, her expression unreadable, somewhere between curiosity, caution, and desperation. For a woman who never accepts help, the temptation is loud. The name on the card doesn't promise salvation, but it offers something she hasn't felt in years. The sense that maybe, just maybe, someone sees her. Naomi hadn't planned to call him. The business card had sat on her table for 2 days, staring at her like a question she didn't know how to answer. When she finally dialed, it wasn't to ask for anything. It was simply to say thank you. Her voice was measured, polite, almost stiff. I just wanted to thank you for your kindness. On the other end, Jude's voice was warm, casual. Anytime, he said. Let me buy you coffee. Nothing fancy, just a quiet place to talk. Naomi hesitated, but agreed. The next afternoon, they met at a modest cafe tucked beside a printing shop in Surulere. She wore her cleanest blouse, hair tied back, posture upright like armor. Jude kept the conversation light at first, talking about Lagos traffic, fried plantain, and how he missed the chaos of home despite living in Atlanta. Slowly, Naomi relaxed. Between sips of tea, she mentioned, almost offhandedly, that years ago, before Daniel died, she had dreamed of opening a home healthcare service for elderly patients. We even had a business plan, she said, eyes distant. But after he passed, I couldn't breathe, let alone build. Jude didn't pity her. He leaned in slightly and said, That's still in you. Dreams don't expire. In the weeks that followed, things began shifting in quiet but powerful ways. Jude never offered money outright, never made grand gestures. Instead, he showed up with books on entrepreneurship, budgeting templates, even old training manuals she once thought she'd never need again. He helped Adora with her reading every Sunday afternoon, patiently sounding out each word as Naomi stirred stew in the kitchen. One day, Naomi came home from the market to find Malik unusually silent, avoiding her gaze. That night, a brown envelope arrived from his school, marked "Paid in Full." Her stomach dropped. She marched over to Jude's office the next morning, storming in without knocking. "You did this," she demanded. He didn't deny it. He deserves a chance. But Naomi's pride cracked through her voice. "I don't need charity. I didn't ask for this." "I know," Jude said calmly. "That's why I didn't tell you." Her hands trembled. "You don't get to fix my life just because you feel bad." "I don't feel bad," he replied. "I just believe in you." She left, seething. But days later, when Adora asked if Uncle Jude would be back to help with her maths, Naomi just nodded quietly. The community noticed. Whispers started among Naomi's co-workers at the hospital and the cleaning company. They saw her talking to a well-dressed man outside the bus stop, saw him bring her lunch once, saw her smile, a soft, fleeting thing she hadn't shown in years. "Nurse Naomi don get oyimbo sponsoro," one cleaner chuckled. The laughter wasn't kind. Naomi tried to ignore it, but Malik heard worse at school. Boys joked that his mother had leveled up. Girls sneered. "Your mum's probably dating that guy for rent money." That evening, Malik came home furious, threw his bag on the floor, and confronted her. "You said we didn't need help," he shouted. "You said we're not beggars, but now you're dating some rich guy behind our backs." Naomi, exhausted from a double shift, snapped, "Watch your tone, Malik." But the boy didn't back down. "You lied. You're just like everyone else, pretending." The sting came fast, her palm across his cheek. The room went silent. Both stood frozen. Her eyes widened in horror as his own filled with rage. "I hate you," he whispered, before grabbing his hoodie and bolting out the door. He didn't return until after midnight. Wet from the rain, his shoulders slumped in silence. The next morning brought a fresh wound. A woman from Child Protective Services knocked again, this time with a more serious tone. "We've received a report of escalating domestic instability," she said. Naomi's heart dropped. Malik sat stone-faced in the corner, refusing to speak. Adora clung to Naomi's leg. "We're opening a formal investigation," the woman said. "Expect a home visit within the week." Before Naomi could catch her breath, her landlord came pounding at the door, demanding rent or warning of eviction. That afternoon at the hospital, a patient filed a complaint after Naomi mistakenly gave the wrong dosage, an error she caught and corrected immediately, but not before it was logged. By evening, she was called into the supervisor's office and told coldly, "This isn't working out. Her badge was taken. Her final paycheck would come in 2 weeks. And just like that, the tiny scaffolding she'd built to hold her life together began to collapse. She walked home that night in a daze, the sky spinning. Every breath felt heavy, every step pointless. Jude called. She didn't answer. Adaora asked what was for dinner. Naomi couldn't speak. Her hands trembled as she held her head, the walls of the apartment closing in like a fist. Her strength, once her greatest shield, now felt like a distant thing, slipping fast. There was nothing left to hold together but silence. Naomi stood outside Jude's office, rain soaking through her clothes, fists clenched so tightly, her nails cut into her palms. She didn't knock, just pushed the door open, her breath ragged, eyes blazing. "You!" she hissed. Jude looked up from his desk, surprised but calm. "Naomi!" "No!" she shouted, voice cracking. "Don't say my name like you know me." She stepped forward, trembling. "You made me believe in something again. You sat there with your soft voice and your books and your quiet money and made me think, maybe I was more than this." Her voice grew louder, thick with betrayal. "I knew my life was hard, but at least it was mine. I cleaned floors. I mopped blood. I kept my head down. And now, I've lost everything. My job, my home. My son barely looks at me because I let myself believe I could want more." She was weeping now, but it wasn't graceful. It was raw, shattered. "This is your fault," she spat. "You should have left me alone." Jude stood slowly, eyes never leaving hers. He said nothing for a moment. Then, with the gentlest hands, he reached into a drawer and handed her an envelope. Naomi hesitated. "What is this?" she snapped. "More charity?" "No," Jude said softly. "It's a beginning." She tore it open angrily, ready to reject whatever it was, but then froze. Inside were neatly stamped business registration documents in her name, a draft from the bank, 500,000 naira, and a detailed proposal outlining a mobile elder care service with budget estimates, outreach plans, and a projected growth chart. She blinked, confused. "What is this?" Her voice was barely audible now. "A gift," Jude said. "An investment. You told me once you had a dream. I believe you're ready." Naomi shook her head, still trembling. "Why? Why are you doing this?" She couldn't hold back the tears anymore. She collapsed into a nearby chair, the documents trembling in her lap, sobs shaking her entire body. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I've never done anything like this." Jude sat beside her, waited a beat, then spoke. "Can I tell you a story?" he asked gently. She nodded, barely. "Years ago, I was living on the streets of Chicago, lost everything, cold, starving, invisible. No one would look at me, except this woman who worked the night shift at a nearby hospital, a Nigerian nurse. She used to bring me sandwiches, blankets, sometimes just a smile. She didn't have much herself, but she had this grace. She told me, 'No one stays down forever. You will rise.'" Jude looked at Naomi now, his voice reverent. Her name was Rebecca Akindi. Naomi froze. "That's my mother," she whispered. Jude nodded slowly. "I never forgot her. When I finally got back on my feet, I made a promise. If I ever had the chance to give someone what she gave me, I'd do it." Years passed. I built my business, started a mentorship trust, mostly quiet investments, helping women across Africa start businesses, go back to school. But when I saw your name, Naomi, I couldn't believe it. His voice cracked with emotion. "Your mother saved my life. This," he gestured to the envelope, "is just me trying to keep that promise." Naomi stared at him, the weight of the moment crashing over her like a tide. Her world, once only full of limits and loss, now pulsed with terrifying possibility. She clutched the envelope to her chest, tears streaming freely now, not from despair, but from the strange, aching hope that maybe, just maybe, she hadn't been defeated. Not yet. 6 months later, the streets of Ajagunle hold a different rhythm for Naomi Akinda. The early mornings still come with noise, with heat, with Lagos traffic, but now they also come with purpose. Her mobile elder care service, Noble Touch, has grown from a dream to a network. 3 neighborhoods, 2 hired vans, and a small but dedicated team, one that includes 2 other single mothers she trained and hired herself. Each morning, they load up medical kits, nutritional supplements, blood pressure monitors, and most of all, dignity. Naomi moves with quiet authority now, clipboard in hand, uniform crisp. She's no longer just surviving, she's building. Malik, now taller and steadier, works part-time with her after school, managing appointment logistics, checking supply inventory, handling calls with a maturity that surprises even himself. The bitterness in his voice has softened, replaced by a cautious pride. Adaora, always cheerful, hands out care kits to elderly clients with a grin and a curtsy, announcing each delivery like it's a royal gift. Jude still visits from time to time, never hovering, never directing. He arrives with a book or a business podcast recommendation, sometimes staying to help with transport or offer advice over dinner. But the center of gravity now is Naomi. Her spine straighter, her voice firmer, her eyes focused. She recently stood on a stage at a women's empowerment forum in Ikeja, telling her story to a packed room of women who had been invisible too long. There were no tears, no trembling, just truth. She spoke of loss, of exhaustion, of the day she almost gave up, and then of grace. Her words were steady, her chin high, her hands never once clenched in fear. Back home, the transformation is visible. The landlord, once cold and impatient, now offers to knock down a wall to help expand the apartment. He grins sheepishly as he speaks, eager to stay in the good graces of Madame Naomi, whose story was recently featured in a local magazine. CPS officially closed their file, citing improved conditions, emotional stability, and exceptional community service. Malik framed the letter on the wall without telling her, and on a quiet Sunday afternoon, Naomi sits at the kitchen table, pen in hand, staring at a final check, the last of her old debts. She writes it slowly, savoring the moment. When it's done, she doesn't cheer, she doesn't cry, she just exhales deeply. For the first time in years, she isn't owed anything and owes no one. Her life, her choices, her healing are hers. And the world, wide and waiting, is finally something she's walking into, not hiding from. The evening is soft and quiet, the kind of Lagos dusk that hums gently instead of roaring. Naomi sets the table with calm precision, placing each spoon and bowl with the care of someone who once had nothing to set. The aroma of egusi soup lingers in the air. Malik walks in, taller now, confidence in his step. He leans down and kisses her forehead, a silent thank you in the gesture. Adaora trails behind him, humming to herself as she arranges the plates with the flair of a hostess, beaming with pride at her perfectly folded napkin. The apartment feels warm, not from the heat, but from something fuller, something earned. There's a knock at the door. Jude steps in briefly, still wearing his usual quiet smile, and hands Malik a book, something about African entrepreneurs. For the boss in training, he says, giving Naomi a subtle nod. She nods back, no longer uncertain around him, no longer feeling the need to explain or resist. He doesn't linger, just a wave, and then he's gone again, disappearing into the Lagos night with the lightness of someone who knows his chapter in the story is no longer the lead. Naomi takes her seat, looking at the faces across from her, her children, her strength. There's no noise except their breathing, the clink of a spoon, the buzz of distant traffic. She smiles, leans back, and whispers more to herself than anyone else. You see, we never needed saving. Just a little push. The rest, we did ourselves. Her hand reaches for the glass of water beside her. She lifts it gently, holding it in the center of the table. To the woman who cleaned toilets but never lost her pride. Malik chuckles. Adaora claps. They raise their glasses. Juice, water, joy. And their laughter fills the room. Not loud, not showy, just real. The screen fades to black on the sound of their togetherness, a quiet triumph echoing in the silence that follows.